students of Hoboken Public Schools. I am Shari Simpson, and I am an author and a screenwriter and a Hoboken parent. And this is part 3 of our 5-part series on writing books and movies, How to Turn a Small Idea into a Big Story. So it's been a while since my last video, and that's because I was working on my new book. Yes, I was taking a small idea and turning it into a big story. And guess what? Oh, it's really hard. Oh my gosh, there are so many ways a story can go. Sometimes you get halfway and you're like, wait, what am I doing? So how do we do it? How do we structure a story so that it has a beginning, middle, and an end? That it goes somewhere? I like to start with the Pixar story spine because Pixar tells the best stories ever. Duh. The Pixar story spine is an outline or a blueprint for how to structure a story so that it has a beginning, middle, and end, and has exciting elements, and actually goes somewhere, and has some kind of meaning to it. So, let's take a look. This is the Pixar story spine. Once upon a time, there was an every day but one day, and because of this, and because of that, until finally, and ever since that day. Now, let's break it down. Once upon a time, there was. The first thing you do when you tell a story is you establish the characters and the setting. Who is the story about and where does it take place? And there's usually one character that the story centers around, and they are called the protagonist or the hero. I like hero. And every day, what is life like for the hero? Every day. What is their normal world? But one day, no, this is where it gets fun. One day something happens to the hero. In writerly terms, this is the catalyst or the inciting incident. But whatever you call it, it just means that something happens to the hero that is so big that it throws them off balance. It knocks them out of their normal, ordinary world. Now the hero is forced to do something, try something, set some kind of goal that will put their life back into some kind of balance. And because of this, your hero has a goal now, but there are obstacles. So many obstacles, so many things in the hero's way that try to keep them from achieving their goal. So they have to try new things and try new avenues, trying to get there, trying to achieve that goal. And because of that, more obstacles, more ways to stop the hero. Are they ever going to achieve their goal? Now it looks like, no, they're not. And this makes the hero very sad. Until finally, now this is the moment of truth for our hero. She figures it out. She marches forth with all the stuff that she's learned from all the obstacles and all the new ways she's tried, and she achieves that goal. But the funny thing is, it's usually not the goal she set after. Not so much what she wanted, but what she actually needs. And ever since that day, the hero has learned the lesson of the story, and life will never be the same again. The end. Okay, let's try this. We are going to take a small idea from my writer's notebook, and we are going to turn it into a big story. Not a big book or a big movie, but a story, a full story with a beginning, middle, and an end. So if you remember from my last video, one of the ideas, the tiny little ideas that was in my writer's notebook was a building with no doors on the ground floor. It was something that I saw in my neighborhood and I was like, well, that's weird. And it kind of stuck in my mind and I put it in my notebook and I'm like, I'm gonna write a story about this sometime. Let's do it now. And just, this took me about 15 minutes to write. So think of all the things you can do in 15 minutes. It's never going to be perfect. This is a first draft. You know how it goes. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Ava who lived in a building with no doors. And every day, Ava just lived her life. She had a rooftop garden to grow her food, and she kept herself busy with writing and painting and thinking. She didn't care about not being able to leave her building because she didn't know. She didn't know that there was a world outside of her building. Sure, sometimes things nagged at her and she felt, I guess, lonely, but she just assumed that's the way the world is. But one day, Ava was picking tomatoes on her rooftop and one of them rolled to the very edge. She ran to catch it before it rolled off. She looked out and saw that there were other buildings and gardens and people. What? And because of this, for the first time, Ava considered escaping her building, her normal world, and venturing out for an adventure. But so many obstacles, like no doors, no help. And also, she'd seen the tomato roll off the rooftop and smash on the ground, and she wasn't having any of that. So, and also, she'd seen the other people on the other rooftops, and they looked a little scary. So she knew that she had to figure this out by herself, just like everything else in her life. And because of that, Ava tried everything she could to escape her building. She tried to make a rope of towels to lower herself down. She tried to cut a hole in the wall with a butter knife to make a door. She thought about burning the building down, but realized probably by the time the building burned down, she would be dead. And then she realized it was hopeless. She couldn't do this by herself. So Ava did what she always did to restore balance. She painted. She painted a scene on her wall of the outside world. She painted other buildings and other gardens and other people. She pretended that she was there. She felt so sad. She had lost her dream. Until finally, Ava discovered something. She stared at the painting and saw the other people and realized that maybe the fact that she couldn't do this by herself was the answer. Ava ran to the rooftop and she grabbed a tomato and she tied a note to it, and the note said, "Help me." Then she threw it as hard as she could and she watched when it sailed right over into another rooftop and smashed. It was pretty gross, but it got the attention of another girl about Ava's age. She went and she looked at the note, and then she looked up and she saw Ava. For the first time in her life, somebody saw. And then the girl called the fire department. They brought a giant ladder and they led Ava down into the new world. And ever since that day, Ava was no longer alone because she opened her eyes and her heart and she learned to ask for help. The end. So you see how that works? Okay, so obviously I wrote that in 15 minutes, but think about that, guys. That would be a great blueprint for a story, right? Try this out yourself. You want to get your writer's notebook. You want to take one of those tiny little story seeds, one of those little ideas, one of those things you caught in your idea net, and then you apply the Pixar story spine to it and see what happens. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll come back for video 4, How to Write Great Characters. Bye.